Aziza's eyes opened slowly. At first, everything was blurry, but then she could see clearly that she was lying on an old, rough mat made of straw on the floor of some kind of cave. The walls were made of damp dirt and had weird drawings and symbols all over them that Aziza didn't understand. In the middle of the cave was a small fire burning, which was the only light. "She's awake now," said a deep, rough voice coming from the shadows. Then a huge figure stepped out where Aziza could see it better. It was over 7 feet tall, with greyish leathery skin and a big ridge over its eyes that stuck out. Its body looked extremely muscular and strong, and it was covered in coarse hair all over. Aziza gasped in fright and tried to scramble backwards away from the monster, but it raised up one massive hand. "Don't be scared, child. You're safe here, at least for now," it rumbled. What are you?" Aziza stammered, her heart pounding hard in her chest. The creature looked like it had stepped out of her worst nightmares. "I am a Shitari," the beast answered in its deep, rumbling voice. "A guardian sworn to protect the ancient river goddess Ógúvì and her sacred waters and jungles all around." Aziza's mind raced as she tried to take this in. So the mermaid creature she had met really was telling the truth about there being ancient guardians protecting this river and goddess. "The mermaid," Aziza said hesitantly. "She told me I had Ógúví's bloodline, that I was supposed to join with her kind of creatures to break some kind of curse." The huge Shitari slowly nodded its great head. "The mermaid spoke the truth, though her intentions were wicked. You are the chosen human who is destined to awaken as the physical form of Ógúvì, the goddess reborn on this world." Aziza shook her head adamantly. "That's totally crazy. I'm just a normal girl. This has to be some wild dream I'm having." "I assure you it is very real," the Shitari said grimly. "The glowing lines underneath your skin that look like veins are proof that the spirit of Ógúvì lies dormant within your body. The time has arrived for you to fully accept and embrace your destined role." Aziza looked down at her arm and could indeed see the eerie pulsing blue glow just below the surface of her skin, like visible veins, but glowing. A cold chill went down her spine. "Long ago, in the ancient times, my Shitari kind watched over and protected Ógúví's jungles and the sacred river, alongside the mermaids who lived in the waters," the massive guardian continued. "We all lived together in peace and harmony as the spiritual guardians of the land, river, and nature." Its huge fists clenched tightly. "But then the human settlers came to this region, and they saw us as nothing but monsters that should be hunted and killed. After centuries of violent warfare between humans and US guardians, Ógúvì made a terrible sacrifice to try to save those of us who remained." Aziza listened raptly, still having trouble believing anything the Shitari was telling her was real, yet also feeling deep down that it spoke the truth. "Ógúvì split her living spirit essence into 2 parts, the Guardian explained. One half she embedded into the body of a human female who was a direct descendant of her bloodline, and the other half of her spirit essence remained here in this sacred jungle, granting us the magic to erect cloaking barriers that have hidden us away from the human world all this time." It leaned forward intensely, locking its large amber eyes on Aziza. "You are the living reincarnation of that sacred human bloodline, carrying half of Ógúví's spirit within you over all these generations. If you were to reunite her split halves by fully awakening her spirit essence inside your body, you could restore Ógúvì as the all-powerful river goddess reborn into human form." Aziza's head spun as she tried to process this utterly unbelievable revelation about her apparent destiny and spiritual importance. some part of her still refused to actually believe any of it could possibly be real. But the evidence was right there for her to see, glowing under her very skin. So, just say I actually do have this goddess's spirit inside me somehow, Aziza said carefully, trying to wrap her mind around it. What would happen if I did this reawaken thing you're talking about? What would it mean for me? What would I have to do? The Chitauri's expression grew very somber. If you reunited Ógúví's spirit and awakened as her human avatar form, you would become an immortal living embodiment of the river goddess herself. Your existence would be eternally intertwined with her sacred river, jungles, and all of nature under her dominion. With your human form restraining and containing a portion of Ógúví's infinite power, you could walk the surface world as her corporeal representative and enforcer, carrying out her will and mandate to defend the natural world. It let those heavy words sink in for a moment before adding, embracing such a role would, of course, require you to permanently sever all ties to your former human life, family, friends, and pursuits. They would have to be left behind forever once you fully took on your new responsibilities as the awakened avatar of Ógúvì reborn. Aziza's breath caught in her throat as she tried to imagine such an existence. Never again seeing her parents, her younger brother, or any of her friends and loved ones. Having to give up any normal human dreams, ambitions, or living experiences she might have had. All in order to become some kind of all-powerful nature goddess warrior figure. It was overwhelming even to consider. But before Aziza could sort through her flying thoughts and emotions enough to respond, a sudden hair-raising shriek echoed from somewhere outside the cave entrance. The Chitauri immediately tensed, rising up again to its full towering height in alarm. "The mermaids have found us here," it growled, its voice echoing through the room. "They want to catch you before you can become Ógúví's avatar. They plan to use her power to control both the humans on land and in the water for their own purposes." More shrieks answered the first one, joined by a sickening wet flapping and slapping sound that was rapidly drawing nearer. Aziza felt panic clawing at her chest as her breathing became shallow and rapid. Without warning, the Chitauri scooped her up effortlessly in one of its massive hair-covered arms, cradling her close to its barrel chest with surprising gentleness, given its immense size and strength. "We must flee at once, child," it told her urgently. "The mermaid's rage and vengeance against Ógúví's heirs knows no bounds or limits. I will keep you safe and guard you with my life until you decide your own path, whether that is to heed the call and embrace your destiny as the awakened embodiment of the goddess, or to turn away from it all and return to your former human life." Holding Aziza tightly, the Chitauri ran quickly through a small tunnel at the back of the cave. They got out just in time, as a group of scary mermaid-like creatures slithered in through the main entrance. Aziza saw many eel-like monsters with big, sharp teeth. Their wide mouths opened and snapped, making a scary hissing sound as they smelled their prey. Even more frightening, their eel-like bodies moved smoothly over the cave floor, even though they had no legs, moving fast towards them. Aziza tried hard to keep quiet as the mermaid-like creatures got closer. She followed the Chitauri quickly through the twisting underground tunnel. She knew that if she made even one scared sound, those creatures would find them right away, their awful cries echoing through the tight space. They kept turning through one tunnel after another, and Aziza had no way to know where they were going. The air got worse and worse as they went deeper underground. Aziza held onto the Shitari, her eyes closed against the complete darkness around them. Only their heavy breathing and the Shitari's loud footsteps broke the silence. Then, a scary screech came from far behind them. The mermaid-like creatures were still chasing, using their sharp senses to follow. The Shitari moved faster, rushing through the darkness towards somewhere unknown. Suddenly, a little light showed up ahead. As they got closer, Aziza saw a huge cave with tall, rocky walls. A big pool of water glowed faintly in the middle, with a small stream feeding it. Without stopping, the Shitari jumped into the freezing water, pulling Aziza under. She squeezed her eyes shut again, trying not to gasp as the icy water surrounded them. They seemed to swim forever before the Shitari kicked up, surfacing in a smaller cave dimly lit by glowing mushrooms. "We'll be safe here for now," the Shitari rumbled, pulling itself onto a ledge and gently setting Aziza down. "But the mermaids won't stop until they find you." "What are we going to do?" Aziza panted, pushing her wet hair from her eyes. The Shitari's eyes looked very serious. "You must fully wake up Ógúvì's spirit inside you. Only with her power can you hope to drive back the mermaids' forces." It held out an old staff, decorated with glowing gems. When the Shitari held it, the runes flashed green, lighting up the cave with an eerie green glow. "You must become Ógúvì's human form, her living self, to protect this land." Aziza looked at the ancient being, barely understanding the huge responsibility given to her. But the urgent look in its eyes showed her there was no other choice. The entrance to the cave shook with huge impacts, like massive things hitting it from outside. The Shitari tensed, raising its staff as more crashes echoed. Aziza clutched her chest as Ógúvì's essence inside her responded, ready to be reborn. A loud and terrifying scream filled the cave, announcing the arrival of the mermaid-like creature's elite monsters. Determination filled the Shitari's eyes. "Get ready, child," it said seriously. "The fight for this land is about to begin." From the tunnel entrance, a giant wriggling creature started to come out. It looked like a huge eel, 50 feet long, with a mouth big enough to swallow a horse. Rows of sharp teeth lined its jaws. More scary creatures slithered out behind it, just as monstrous. The Shitari sent out a bright green light from its staff, pushing the mermaid-like creatures back. "Aziza, you must act now!" it shouted. "Open yourself to Ógúvì's power!" Aziza froze, unable to believe how crazy this was. How could she, a normal teenage girl, ever become an all-powerful nature goddess? The lead monster lunged forward, dodging the Shitari's staff blast. Its wide-open mouth and sharp tongues reached for Aziza. She scrambled back, pressing against the cave wall. At that moment, she felt something deep inside her unlock. The glowing lines under her skin blazed bright blue. Ógúvì's ancient awareness filled Aziza's mind. Power surged through her veins as the sacred river's unstoppable essence joined with her very being. Aziza stood up, her eyes shining like bright blue oceans. With a sweep of her arm, bright blue energy tendrils lashed out, catching the lead monster's tongues and flinging it back. The mermaid-like creatures recoiled from Aziza's newfound power. She felt Ógúvì's control over the waterways and life of this land flow through her. "I am the Avatar," Aziza's voice rang out with the unmistakable tone of the awakened river goddess. "And this land is mine to protect." With an upraised hand, she called forth a massive water tendril from the cave pool, lashing it against the tunnel mouth and causing the stone to crack. The Shitari quickly raised a shield as the cave began to collapse inward, cutting off the mermaid-like creature's path. For now, they were safe. But Aziza knew this was only the start of an ancient conflict reborn.